All right, so welcome to Algebra 2. Today's April 23rd. I'm not going to go over the class rules every single time because, I mean, you guys by now know. But I will try to remind you about the tips. So a tip is to have paper and pencil notes. If possible, try to find some quiet space, ask questions. And then if you don't get to ask your question during class time, attend office hours. I also try to respond during messages, but I know Schoology doesn't notify me every single time. So if I miss your, make sure to come to office hours so I can answer. What else is there? Let's see. And then let me make sure I got. Okay. And then as we go on, let's do a stress check. So make sure in the chat box to put how you're feeling today between a 0 and a 10. I'll go ahead and put mine as well. Oh, that is not where I meant to go. I don't know how it went. Okay. My system is not trying to let me type into it. Oh, everyone, okay. I use that. All right, most of us are at a 1 or 2. I see one person at a 5, but I hope that improves. As usual, I mean, a few things to just help with that sometimes are just doing things you enjoy doing on your spare time, trying to find some quiet space, getting enough sleep. I know that's really hard even for me. As I mentioned, one of you earlier was submitting something super late at night. Yeah, I was also up because I know it's hard to keep a decent sleep schedule. Well, let's go ahead and check out our objectives for today. So the objectives is to review finding slope. Oh, sorry, slope. I'm thinking of Algebra 1. Review finding the 3 trigonometric functions, so sine, cosine, and tangent for a given angle in a right triangle, and to find the missing side of a right triangle. I know it's hard because I know for a quiet space, it's hard for me as well. I had to like close my windows. I have to make sure no one comes in during my class times. I know it's hard and sometimes it's almost like impossible. So just do the best you can. And then we do miss that to that response. And then just to make sure, he'll go back to our lesson. When we review the do nows, just go back if you didn't get a chance to do it. I know some of you guys did it, so thank you for that. Let's quickly look at this because again, I'm adding a new little like feature to our lesson, so I want to explain that at the end. For question number 1, find the value of each trigonometric ratio. So if I remember SOHCAHTOA, I know that it's CAH, so I know I'm looking for adjacent and hypotenuse. Right away, I look for my hypotenuse. That's whatever's across from the right angle. So my hypotenuse is 37. And then it says cosine of A. So my focus is angle is A. What's all the way across? That's going to be my opposite. I know this is my hypotenuse, so I know this is my adjacent. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I went through that really, really quickly right now. Okay, and I saw a response. Thank you. But 35 out of 30, over 37. You check and see if that answer is here. And if it is, you leave it alone. But if it's not, you have to simplify. This one actually is here, right? Notice that this is adjacent, not opposite. So it's the adjacent of angle A. So adjacent would be 35 over 37. So your answer would actually be D. All right. So now for number 2, this one you can't really figure it out just using your brain, unfortunately. So again, you go into your phone, you go into the calculator, turn it to the side. You type in 61 tangent, and that should give you 1.8040. So that is answer C. If you guys have any questions about that, let me know. As we go on to our review, so which one is true for this angle? So it's asking out of these, which one is true? So again, I know this is my hypotenuse. And again, always label just because it makes everything so much easier. That is my opposite, meaning this is my adjacent. So if it says tangent, I know that tangent, let me just write SOHCAHTOA to make it easier and quick. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So what's my opposite? It's 4. What's my adjacent? It's 10. If I divide that into my calculator, that's going to be 0.4. So right away, I know that that is my answer. I don't even have to do the rest because I know that that one's correct. Looking at this one, which is of the following statements is true for this triangle. Again, if it's a decimal, you do have to divide it. You can either plug it into the calculator, or if you just know it off the top of your head, that's fine too. What's the opposite of this? That's your hypotenuse. What's the opposite of that? That's going to be your opposite. And then what's left is your adjacent. So for tangent, again, SOHCAHTOA. Opposite is 4. Adjacent is 3. Okay. If I plug that into the calculator, because I know that 4 divided by 3, so if you have 4 slices of pizza out of a pizza that's been cut into 3 slices, I know that's going to be over 1. And even if you plug it into the calculator, you'll notice it's 1 point something. So this is not it. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. What's my adjacent? 3. What's my hypotenuse? 5. And I'm going to go ahead, plug that into my calculator. I'm just going to go 3 divided by 5, and that gives 0.6. So I know that's also knotted. Right away, I can assume it's probably going to be sine of theta, but I don't want to jump to conclusions, so I'm going to check my answer. So opposite is 4. My hypotenuse is 5. If I type in 4 divided by 5, that gives me 0.8. That is my answer. And I'm going I feel like I'm going very quickly, so let me know if I need to slow down at any point, because I know I'm talking at like 1,000,000 words per minute. All right, so this problem is one that we looked at during the last class, but I didn't teach you guys how to solve it. Instead, we just kind of talked about it, so we're going to talk about how to solve it today. We did the 3 reads, right? I believe with this class, and if we didn't, always do the 3 reads. So, and even if it's in your head, just go through it. So a ladder leaning against a house makes an angle of 30 degrees with the ground. The foot of the ladder is 7 feet from the foot of the house. How long is the ladder? And then I do remember some of you mentioned the numbers and things like that. So I do know we discussed it. So right away, I think about, what is this problem about? It's about a ladder leaning against a house. What math information do they give me? They give me that there's an angle of 30 degrees, and they give me that the ladder is 7 feet from the foot of the house. And I know that the question I need to solve for my 3rd read was that, how long is this ladder? So let's look at the problem. Right away, notice that there's a triangle that gets formed. So if we look at this problem, notice this right here, this area, it's a triangle. So what I did is I created this image right here where you can see the actual triangle being formed. Now, let's look at the information that they give us, and let me see if I need to, okay, I need to label it. A ladder leaning against a house makes an angle of 30 degrees with the ground. So we know that this ladder with the ground makes an angle of 30 degrees as it's leaning. So I know that this angle right here is 30 degrees. Now it says the foot of the ladder. So the foot means the bottom of the ladder. So right here, the foot of the ladder is 7 feet from the foot of the house. So this is the foot of the house. This is the foot of the ladder. I know that that's going to be 7 feet. So I was able to label this triangle just based on the information that was given to me from the problem. And sometimes you will need to know these things because let's say you're trying to put something on your roof. Maybe you're trying to decorate for Christmas, things like that. This is information that might be useful in order for you to figure these things out. If you ever do construction, and then just in other aspects of your life, I want to make sure that you guys have some idea of when this information can be used in real life situations. So let's look at this right here. Our label was, this is 30 degrees. And we know that this is 7 feet. That's the information that we have. And that's it. That's all we know. But they're saying how long is the ladder? So they want us to figure out, remember that this was a ladder? If we look at this picture again, the hypotenuse, so this part is a ladder. This is our x, because we don't know what it is, but that's what they want us to find out. So let's go back to what we've been learning so far. And we've been learning the triangles, right? We've been learning how to label triangles. So we know that this is a hypotenuse, because again, it's the opposite of the right angle. And remember that the opposite of this is our, of the focus angle is called opposite. And whatever we have left is adjacent. So we know that how to label our triangle. Now, they want us to find, this is where it might get a little bit confusing, so I'm going to try to slow this part down, because I know I've been explaining everything quickly. But right away, if they're telling us to find one of the missing sides, I'm going to write what we already know, which is SOHCAHTOA. That's information that we know. And I'm going to figure out, well, what information do they give me and what do I need to find out? Okay. So what I mean by that is, let's look at the opposite hypotenuse. Let's not look at the things in boxes. The first letters is sine, cosine, and tangent. Let's look at everything else. Do they give me the opposite? Do they tell me what opposite is? Or do they tell me to figure that out? No, notice there's no information for opposite. So they do not give me that. We don't know that. I'm going to put an X just so we can see that we don't know what that information is. And they don't tell me anything. They don't even tell me at least figure this out. They're just like, forget about it. So let's look at our hypotenuse. They don't tell me what the hypotenuse, but they do tell me that that's what they want me to figure out. Okay. So I'm going to put a question mark because they do tell me that's what they want me to figure out. Okay. And they do give me the adjacent side. Notice for adjacent, they say that's 7 feet. So they say this is 7 feet. They say this is 7 feet. So now I'm going to look at all these three. Okay, I'm going to separate them into sections and see which one do they give me the most information for. So this one, I don't know my opposite. I don't know anything about it, and they're not even telling me figure it out. So I know that I can't do anything with that. Now this one, we don't know my hypotenuse, but they at least gave me the adjacent, and I know that I'm supposed to figure that out. So at least I know something. I didn't cross anything out here. And let's look at my tangent. So here, notice the opposite. They didn't give me anything. I can't do anything with this information. So I'm going to be using cosine. And we're going to keep going more into detail. I know that this is a quick introduction, but again, this is still an introduction. So I'm going to take it a little bit slower when it comes to explaining this in more detail and how to figure it out. So if you're confused, just try to follow along because I'm trying to teach you a lot really quickly in such a short amount of time. Okay. So I'm going to try to spread it out during our next sessions. So this is my cosine. Remember they gave me the degrees. So I'm going to take the C, cosine, and I'm going to put cosine of 30 degrees because they told me the angle is 30 degrees. And I'm going to make that equal to adjacent. They tell me what my adjacent is. It's 7 over hypotenuse. We don't know what hypotenuse is, but they tell us to call it X. So this is going to be my equation. Again, I know this is a lot, so we're going to try to take it step by step. Today, it's more of an introduction. So just try to bear with me and just keep up as much as you can. Okay. So right away, I know that something I can't solve is I can't solve this because remember, I told you this is something you can do on your calculator. So I'm going to go into my calculator. My calculator, I'm going to type in 30. And I'm going to type in cosine. So 30 cosine. I don't even need to type in the equal sign. It gives me the answer. It's 0.866 and it keeps going. So I'm going to type in write out 0.866. And then this stays the same because I did nothing to it. Now, if you go back to Algebra 1, we're trying to get X by itself. So I'm going to separate this. How do well, we want to get rid of the X. Sorry, not the X, the 7. But I do need to move the X to this side. So I'm going to multiply that by X. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other because I did the opposite. That leaves me with 0.866 times x is equal to 7. How do I get x by itself? Well, now I can go ahead and divide each side by 7.866. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. And once again, I go ahead, type that into my calculator. 7 divided by 0.866. That gives me 8.083. So I know that the height of the house is about 8 feet, which really doesn't make sense because a house probably wouldn't be 8 feet. I mean, it would be actually a lot taller than 8 feet. But for this problem, we're going to pretend it's a small house. So it would be about 8 feet. Again, I know that's a lot of information, and I wanted us to practice and find the missing sides and all of that, but I think I'm going to leave that for the last session because I do want to explain a little bit more of the rest. So just do the best on the exit ticket and on the homework assignment because it will be about this, but I know that you guys might have a hard time, or if you want, you can also just wait and I'll update the questions to something you will know how to do. Again, because this is a lot of information and I realize I want to take it a little bit more slowly because again, it's a lot. Something I did want to talk about before we go in, well, let me first go into the last part of the class, the next steps. Make sure you do your do now. I noticed some of you come to class and haven't gotten a chance to do your do nows as exit tickets, homework assignments. That's what's going into your grade. And I know some of you guys have pretty okay grades already, but this is really your chance to really bump it up, especially because I'm giving you guys as many chances as you want to retake the do nows, retake the exit tickets, retake the homework assignments. This is gonna go on to, I know this is like a weird time, but it does go on to your transcripts. So if you ever do want to go to college or show your transcripts to anyone, if you had a good grade or even a decent grade in the classroom, this is your chance to bump it up to as high of a grade as possible. So I would take advantage of that opportunity and get that done. All right, so now hopefully we get a chance to review things, but I did want to explain to you this new thing that I'm adding to our classes, or to our class. I wanted to try to go ahead and hopefully motivate you guys to come to class. And I know you guys are really good about coming to class, but I wanted to continue to motivate you guys to come to class. And one thing I want to do is I wanted to add a slide where it's like a quick little game where I'm going to show you, and I think some of you guys already saw it, but I'm going to show you a set of emojis, and I want you guys in the chat box to type in your answer and what you think it is. For now, whoever gets it right will get a point, but it's usually going to be whoever gets it first gets the point, or maybe the first like 2 people who get the point. You're just supposed to try to figure out what the emoji is, and then I'm going to keep track of the points, and at the end of the semester, so in June, whoever has the most points, I'm going to find a way to get you guys a treat. And that's something that I'll arrange with probably someone in your family, like a parent or something like that. So the point again is the more you come, obviously, the more points you'll be able to get because you'll be able to answer the question. So I'm going to put up the emojis for today, and I want you to put in the chat box. It should be something really quick, so it shouldn't take up too much time. I want you to put in what the answer is. So what do you think these emojis represent? So I'm going to show you if I can even go back to it. Work with me for some fun reason. There we go. So guess the meaning of these emojis put together. What do you think this means or this represents? And go ahead and try to, as soon as you know, if you know it, type it into the so you got to think. I know you put, I don't know, but think about it. What might the fire represent? And then the next emoji, what does that represent? Let me pause the